Caught wife cheating with my freeloader cousin. Bro, chill. It's not that serious. He said, then my mom disowned me for kicking him out, so I destroyed all of their lives. Hey Reddit, so I've been sitting on this for about 4 months. Kept writing it out, deleting it, writing it again. But honestly, I need to get this off my chest. I, 39 male, am a PE licensed fire protection engineer. Sprinklers, alarms, smoke evacuation, emergency power. Basically the invisible infrastructure that keeps commercial buildings from turning into crematoriums. Nobody thinks about my work until something goes catastrophically wrong, which is exactly how I like it. Worked my way up from pulling pipe in attics at 19. Every dollar I have, I earned. Nobody handed me anything. My house is a 4-bedroom Craftsman I bought 3 years before I even met my wife Nadine. Paid off. My name on the deed since day one. Now let me introduce you to my cousin Kellen. He's on my mom's side. My aunt's golden child. 29 years old with the resume of a high school sophomore and the confidence of a Fortune 500 CEO. Chronically unemployed but never without a business idea. Cycled through dropshipping, the usual internet hustles, and a podcast with 11 downloads, 3 of which were his mom. Called himself a future entrepreneur. Everyone else called him a professional couch surfer. The pressure campaign started in June. Kellen had gotten kicked out of his last situation, a buddy's apartment where he'd overstayed by 4 months and allegedly clogged the plumbing by flushing protein shake bags down the toilet. My aunt called my mom crying. My mom called me. Then my aunt called me directly. Then my uncle. Then another cousin. Then my mom again. Family helps family, Garrett. He just needs 2 weeks to get back on his feet. You have that big house and it's just you and Nadine. You have the room. What kind of man turns away blood? I said no 4 times. Nadine, my wife, self-described social media marketing consultant who ran a lifestyle Instagram with 1,200 followers and pulled in maybe $800 a month, said yes behind my back. Told my aunt he could stay in the spare room. When I found out, she hit me with, "It's my home too, Garrett. I'm not going to let your family think we're selfish." He arrived July 1st with 2 duffel bags, a gaming monitor, a mini fridge full of energy drinks, and a tub of creatine the size of a paint bucket. He was supposed to stay 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into 3. 3 turned into 6. By mid-September, Kellen had turned my spare room into a frat house. Gaming rig running until 4 a.m. loud enough to hear through the floor, my hoodies disappearing from the closet, my good cologne half empty in his room. He was using my razor, and putting it back wet without a word. The man treated my house like an all-inclusive hotel, with no checkout date. But the thing that really got under my skin wasn't the mess. It was the flirting. He flirted with everything that moved. Waitresses, baristas, the neighbor's wife, Nadine, the inside jokes I wasn't in on. I told him once to dial it back. He laughed it off. Relax, bro. I'm just friendly. Every time I brought up him leaving, the family phone tree activated within hours. My mom, he's almost got a job lined up. My aunt, you'd really throw him out on the street? Nadine, he's not hurting anyone, Garrett. Stop being so rigid. So I stopped pushing. Kept grinding my 12 to 14-hour days on the Crestview Hospital campus project. Full life safety redesign across 6 buildings. Fire marshal breathing down our necks about code compliance timeline. I was working so hard I barely saw my own house in daylight. That was by design. Theirs, not mine. I was at my desk in the construction trailer reviewing fire alarm riser diagrams when my phone buzzed with a fraud alert. One of my credit cards, an older one I barely used kept in a kitchen drawer for emergencies, had just been charged $47.83 at a pizza delivery place. I hadn't ordered pizza. Nadine was supposedly at her sister's house for the afternoon, and Kellen didn't have access to that card, except he lived in my house. And the card was in an unlocked kitchen drawer. I could have called the bank and disputed it. Could have texted Nadine and asked what was going on. Could have let it go and dealt with it at midnight when I got home. Instead, I opened the delivery app on my phone, logged in, checked the recent order. 1 large pepperoni, 1 order of garlic knots, delivered to my address 40 minutes ago, handed to someone at the door, at 2:15 p.m. on a Wednesday, when nobody was supposed to be home except Kellen, and he didn't have the money to order water, let alone delivery. So either he found my card and ordered himself pizza, which was theft, or someone was at the house with him sharing that meal. I drove home, didn't speed, didn't call, didn't text, just drove with the windows down and my brain running through every possibility. Maybe Nadine came home early and they were just hanging out. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions and this was just him being him, helping himself to something that wasn't his, as usual. But the deeper I drove into my neighborhood, the quieter that rational voice got. This was off. His truck was in the driveway, which was normal. Nadine's Lexus SUV was parked around the corner on the next block, half hidden behind a neighbor's hedge. That was not normal. She was supposed to be across town at her sister's. Why would she park around the corner from her own house? You only hide your car when you don't want someone to know you're there. The house was quiet when I walked in. No TV. No gaming sounds from his room. Just a pizza box on the kitchen counter with 2 plates. 2 and 2 glasses. You get the picture. Then the sound from upstairs. A thump. Her laugh, muffled, breathy, unmistakable. The kind of laugh you don't confuse with anything else when you've been married to someone for 12 years. I stood at the bottom of those stairs and felt my heart jump into my throat, every instinct screaming at me to charge up there, kick the door in, put Kellen through the drywall I'd hung myself. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera, photographed the pizza box on the counter, the receipt stapled to it, the 2 plates, the 2 glasses, Nadine's purse on the kitchen chair she supposedly brought to her sister's house, and my credit card sitting in the open drawer where he'd fished it out. Opened the delivery app and screenshotted the order confirmation with the timestamp and address. Evidence first. Then I climbed those stairs, one at a time. Silent on the carpet runner I'd installed in April. The master bedroom door was cracked open about 4 inches. I pushed it the rest of the way with 2 fingers. Every detail burned in permanently. My bed, my sheets, my wife, and Kellen. Shirtless. That stupid tribal armband tattoo on full display. In my bed, in my room, in my house. Nadine saw me first. She didn't scream, didn't scramble for the sheets. She just stared at me like I was the interruption, like I'd walked into the wrong room at a hotel. Kellen sat up. And here's the part I'll take to my grave. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look scared. He looked annoyed, like I was interrupting his Wednesday afternoon. This man who was living rent-free in my house, eating my food, wearing my clothes, using my razor, charging pizza to my credit card, and sleeping with my wife, and he looked at me like I was the problem. Bro, chill, he said. It's not that serious. I felt the rage, massive, white-hot, pressing behind my sternum like a pressure vessel about to fail. But I held it, voice flat, controlled, like reading a code violation report out loud. Get your stuff and get out of my house, both of you, now. He swung his legs off the bed, pulling on his shorts like this was a minor inconvenience. Come on, man. You're overreacting. Sit down and... I'm not asking twice. That's when Kellen decided to be stupid. He stood up, chest puffed, and walked straight toward me. Not to leave, to crowd me. Got about 8 inches from my face, close enough I could smell my own cologne on him, and put his hand flat on my chest. Pushed. Not light. A full shove that rocked me back into the doorframe hard enough to crack the trim. You're not kicking anybody out, bro. Calm down before you do something you regret. I grabbed his wrist off my chest, pivoted, and drove him sideways into the bedroom wall. Not a movie hit. A fast, ugly collision of a 220-pound engineer who's been hauling pipe and climbing scaffolding for 20 years against a guy whose biggest workout is moving a gaming mouse. His shoulder hit the drywall and left a crack shaped like a spiderweb. He bounced off and swung, a looping right hand aimed at my jaw. Sloppy. Slow. I stepped inside it, caught it on my forearm, and put a short right into his ribs that folded him in half. He doubled over, staggered into the dresser, and knocked it sideways. Lamp hit the floor, jewelry box scattered, picture frames crashing everywhere. He tried to straighten up and I shoved him back down. Hard. He caught himself on the bed frame and stayed there, wheezing, one hand on his side. Whole thing took maybe 8 seconds. Felt like 45 minutes. My knuckles were throbbing. Split skin on the second one. His rib bone did that. He had a busted lip from clipping the dresser edge on the way down and a red mark spreading across his shoulder. Blood on my sheets. My sheets. Nadine was screaming. Not words at first, just noise. Then, Garrett, stop, stop. Oh my God, stop. I wasn't touching anyone. I was standing in my own bedroom, breathing hard, looking at Kellen crumpled against the bed frame he'd helped himself to. Get up. I said it quiet. That was worse than yelling, and they both knew it. He looked up at me and the cockiness was gone, completely erased. Something I'd never seen on him before. Like he just figured out the quiet guy who paid for everything had a line, and he'd blown right past it. Get your stuff. You have 5 minutes. Anything still in this house after that goes on the lawn. Garrett, Nadine started, clutching my bathrobe around herself. 4 minutes, 50 seconds. He scrambled. I'll give him that. The man moved faster than he had in 3.5 months of living under my roof. He was cramming clothes into a duffel bag, grabbing his gaming headset, scooping up shoes, hands shaking, lip dripping red onto the carpet. Nadine switched scripts. Tears. Voice cracking. Garrett, please. It just happened. It was one time. We can talk about it wasn't one time. I didn't have proof of that yet, but the way she flinched told me everything I needed to know. Liars don't flinch at wrong accusations. They flinch at right ones. Baby, I made a mistake. I know You parked your car around the corner so I wouldn't see it. That's not a mistake, that's a plan. Get dressed and get out. He hauled his duffel to the hallway, paused at the top of the stairs, tried one more time. Look, bro, it was just, call me bro one more time. He went down those stairs fast. Nadine tried a different angle, went from sad to threatening in about 3 seconds. Her specialty. You can't kick me out, I live here. I'm your wife, I have rights. You have a car parked around the corner and Kellen waiting in the driveway. You can figure out your rights from somewhere else tonight. I'll call the cops. Please do. I'd love to file a report while they're here. That shut the threat down cold. She got dressed in silence, grabbed her purse from the kitchen, the one she'd supposedly taken to her sister's house. At the front door, she turned and gave me the look that cheaters always give when the script runs out. Not guilt, anger. Because I wasn't playing the part she needed me to play. I wasn't breaking down. I wasn't begging her to stay. I wasn't giving her the emotional chaos she could use as cover. You're going to regret this, she said. Already do. 12 years of it. The door closed. I watched from the window as Kellen threw his duffel into his truck. Nadine walked around the block to her hidden Lexus. He tried talking to her in the driveway. She shoved past him. They left separately. Good. Let them figure out the logistics of their little arrangement somewhere that wasn't my house. I locked the deadbolt, set the chain. Then I stood in my kitchen for a full minute, hands braced on the counter, letting the adrenaline drain. My knuckles were swelling. Door frame trim was cracked. Bedroom wall had a dent. Dresser was trashed. Didn't matter. All of it was mine, in my house, and I had every right to be standing exactly where I was. I spent the next 20 minutes documenting everything. Photographed my knuckles, the split skin, the swelling. Photographed the cracked door frame, the dented bedroom wall, the knocked-over dresser, the busted lamp, the blood spots on the carpet. Pulled up my Ring doorbell footage, time-stamped video of Nadine walking up to the front door at 1:47 p.m. Kellen opening it for her. That plus the photos I'd taken of her Lexus hidden around the corner told the whole story. Then later, both of them leaving at 3:22 p.m. Him with a duffel, busted lip visible on camera. Nadine walking separately to her car. All saved, all backed up. Called the non-emergency police line at 3:41 p.m. 2 officers showed up within the hour. Filed a report covering 3 things. Unauthorized use of my credit card by Kellen, the physical altercation he initiated when I told him to leave my property, and trespassing for both of them going forward. Showed the officers the doorbell footage, the credit card evidence, my injuries, and the bedroom damage. One officer noted that I was the sole homeowner, that I had visible defensive injuries consistent with my account, and that Kellen had escalated physically. They documented everything, took photos of their own, and told me I could pursue charges. No arrest that night. But that report, incident number, officer names, badge numbers, timestamp, my documented injuries, their documented departure, became the foundation for everything that came after. I didn't know it yet, but that pizza delivery receipt and that cracked door frame were going to cost Kellen and Nadine more than they could calculate. I sat down at my kitchen table at 5 p.m. with a bag of frozen peas on my hand and my laptop open. Time to go to work. I didn't sleep that night. Set up what I started calling the command center. Laptop open to every financial portal, legal pad for tracking accounts, phone recording app on for all incoming calls. Everything in its own lane, one step at a time. Called my attorney that night. He walked me through the sequence. By Thursday morning, I was first through the bank doors, removed Nadine as authorized user on every account, canceled every credit card with her as secondary, redirected my direct deposit to a new institution. Total once transfers cleared, roughly $347,000. Every cent earned by me. Nadine called the bank 2 days later screaming I'd stolen her money. They put a temporary fraud hold while they investigated. Cost me 72 hours and 2 extra trips with pay stubs and tax returns before they released the funds. Even when you're completely right, an angry phone call can slow you down when institutions move at their own speed. By Friday, I'd met with my attorney in person, known him 15 years, sharp, zero sentimentality. Gave him the full download, police report, every photo, Ring doorbell footage. Divorce proceedings? He asked. Not yet. I want the perimeter secured first. He nodded. They'll come for you when the money stops. That's the point. Changed the locks that same afternoon. Deadbolt, knob, garage code. My house, my locks. Phone stayed quiet for 3 days. Day 4, Nadine texted. Your direct deposit didn't hit. What's going on? Screenshotted it. Didn't respond. Day 5 is when the dam broke. 22 missed calls before noon. Voicemails going from calm to unhinged in about 4 hours. I saved every message. People tell on themselves when they stop pretending. By afternoon, Nadine and Kellen showed up at the house, the one I'd changed the locks on. Ring doorbell caught everything. Nadine trying her key, realizing it didn't work, pounding on the door. Him behind her in gym shorts and slides. Open the door, bro. Let's talk like men. I was sitting at my kitchen table 15 feet from the front door. Bag of frozen peas on my still swollen hand. Watch the whole thing on the Ring app in real time. I pressed the speaker button. One sentence. You're trespassing. I have a police report on file, and this doorbell is recording. Leave or I'm calling. He stepped back like the doorbell had grown teeth. Nadine kept going for another 2 minutes. Threats, sobbing, the whole rotation. Then a neighbor across the street came out on his porch. She saw the audience and dialed it down. They left, saved the footage, filed a second trespass complaint. The neighbor, good man, gave me a written statement the next day. Unprompted. He'd seen enough. Phase 1 complete. Every system has failure points. Kellen's were everywhere because his entire life was held together with energy drinks and audacity. First move, the credit card theft. That police report I filed. It went somewhere. The $47.83 charge was small, but unauthorized use of a credit card is a crime in this state regardless of amount. I provided the delivery receipt, the photo of my card in the drawer, my badge records proving I was at the Crestview job site when the order was placed, and the delivery confirmation with the timestamp. Detectives followed up within 2 weeks. He got charged with misdemeanor theft, not prison, but a criminal record that follows you on every background check, lease application, and job screening. For a guy who already couldn't hold employment, that charge was a cement block tied to an anchor. Second move, the assault. My injuries were documented. His were consistent with being stopped, not attacked. Attorney filed for a restraining order based on the shove, the swing, and the subsequent trespass at my home, granted within 10 days. The guy who'd lived rent-free in my spare room for 3.5 months couldn't even drive down my street. Third move, formal eviction. He'd been there over 3 months, which meant tenant protections could theoretically apply. Attorney filed the paperwork first week of November, citing the police report as grounds for emergency removal. He didn't contest it because contesting requires a lawyer, and he couldn't afford gas money, let alone legal fees. Clean on paper, bulletproof. Fourth move. I started telling the truth, not a smear campaign, not anonymous tips. Called 6 people in our circle and told them exactly what happened. Plain language, no embellishment, just facts. Turns out I wasn't the only one Kellen had burned. One buddy had lent him $2,800 for a business license that never materialized. Another was out $1,500 for car repairs he spent on gaming equipment. A third had co-signed a gym membership he defaulted on after 2 months, sticking the friend with an $1,100 early termination fee. Over $5,000 in unpaid debts across our circle. Within 2 weeks, 2 of them filed small claims cases. His phone was detonating. His social media went quiet, then dark. The criminal charge landed, the restraining order hit, and the small claims judgments started piling up on his credit like barnacles on a hull. His truck got repossessed because he'd been behind on payments even before the collapse. Turns out the entrepreneur lifestyle was financed entirely by other people's wallets and patience. Landlords run credit checks. Employers run background checks. His now included a theft charge, a restraining order, and multiple judgments. Nobody was opening a door for him. The guy who thought he could sleep with my wife, live in my house, and steal my credit card without consequences found out that every single one of those choices had a receipt attached to it. Last I heard from a cousin who still talks to me, he ended up back at his mom's house, 30 years old in his childhood bedroom, working part-time at a warehouse for barely above minimum wage. The future entrepreneur answering to a shift supervisor and clocking in at 5 a.m. May the force be with you, buddy. You're gonna need it. I didn't hack anything, didn't stalk anyone, told the truth, filed legitimate legal actions, and reported real crimes to the right people. The system did the rest. This is the part that hurt worse than catching them. When the money stopped and the legal papers started flying, my phone turned into a war zone. Not Nadine, my own blood. My aunt called first, his mom, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone 6 inches from my ear. You're destroying my son's life over a mistake. You put your hands on him. He's your family. I let her finish her rant. Took about 6 minutes. Then I said, calm as concrete. Your son slept with my wife in my house while eating my food and spending my money. When I told him to leave, he shoved me into a doorframe and swung at me. He's got a criminal charge because he stole my credit card. If you think all of that is just a mistake, we're using different dictionaries. She hung up on me. Then the cousins. Texts flooding in. You're going too far. You didn't have to fight him. He didn't mean for it to happen. She probably came on to him. That last one almost made me laugh. Almost. One of his older cousins, a guy I'd never liked, showed up outside my house one evening. Didn't ring the bell. Just stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, trying to look intimidating. Ring doorbell caught the whole thing. I watched from the kitchen window, took a screenshot, texted it to my attorney, and went back to eating dinner. My lawyer sent a trespass warning to him the next day. Never came back. My uncle, his dad, called and actually tried to be reasonable for about 30 seconds before pivoting to, "Look, Garrett, maybe if you'd been home more instead of working all the time, this wouldn't have happened." I hung up. First time I'd ever hung up on a family member in my life. Honestly, should have done it years ago. A week later, my aunt and two of her kids showed up at my dad's house, not mine, my dad's, and screamed at him in his own driveway for raising a violent, heartless son. My dad, a man who has never raised his voice in 67 years of living, walked inside and locked the door. He called me that night. "I'm done, Garrett. I'm done with all of them." But the worst was my mom, my own mother. She called the night the trespass warnings went out and told me I was heartless, said I was ruining a young man's future over jealousy, and that I'd assaulted Kellen instead of handling it like an adult. When I pointed out that her nephew had been sleeping with her daughter-in-law in her son's own bed for weeks, and then shoved me when confronted, she said, and I will never forget this, "Well, maybe if you'd paid more attention to your wife instead of working all the time, she wouldn't have looked elsewhere." I sat in my kitchen and stared at the wall for a solid 20 minutes after that call. Let that sink in for a second. My own mother, the woman who raised me, told me the affair was my fault, took her nephew's side over her own son, not because she believed it, but because her sister was in her ear, and my mom has never once in her life been able to stand up to that woman. My dad called me the next morning, quiet, measured. "I heard what your mother said to you last night. I want you to know I don't agree with a single word of it." "Thanks, Dad. I've been watching her enable your aunt's family for 35 years. Her nephew, his brother, your aunt's spending. Your mother writes checks with my money to bail them out, and I've been too passive to stop it. That ends now." 2 weeks later, Dad moved out. Filed for divorce within the month. 41 years of marriage, and Mom's decision to side with the guy who wrecked her son's home was the straw that finally broke it. Dad told me later it wasn't just this. It was 35 years of watching her bail out her sister's family, write checks behind his back, take their side in every single conflict, and treat his feelings as optional. My situation was just the one that made him realize it was never going to change. Dad got an apartment 15 minutes from mine. We started having dinner every Thursday. He told me he should have done it years ago. Said watching me refuse to fold gave him the push he'd been missing for decades. Mom tried calling me 3 times after that. I let everyone ring out to voicemail. Her messages got progressively more desperate. First angry, then guilty, then pleading. She never once apologized for what she said. Just kept insisting I was tearing the family apart. When the family tore itself apart the second her nephew climbed into my bed. I blocked my aunt, blocked 3 cousins, kept Dad and 1 cousin who'd stayed neutral. The family tree got pruned hard that fall, and I held the shears. While the family drama exploded, Nadine launched her own war. She wasn't stupid, manipulative, self-centered, couldn't own up to anything if her life depended on it, but not stupid. First, she hired a lawyer, not a great one, a guy who mostly handled DUIs and fender benders, but aggressive and cheap. He filed an emergency motion for temporary spousal support, claiming I'd unlawfully locked respondent out of the marital home and unilaterally severed all financial support, leaving respondent destitute. Also filed to compel me to grant Nadine access to the home or cover her alternative housing costs. Judge granted temporary support at $2,200 a month. That stung. Housing access motion denied because the house was my separate property and the police report documented grounds for the removal, but the judge noted he'd revisit if needed. Setback number 1. Second, the restraining order play. Mid-November, about 5 weeks after the confrontation, Nadine filed for a temporary protective order against me, claimed I'd been violent, threatening, and intimidating, citing the confrontation with Kellen as proof I was dangerous. The order was granted ex parte. Judge signed it on her word alone before I could respond. I got served at my office on a Thursday morning, had to surrender my concealed carry permit and stay 500 feet from the house I owned. My attorney filed opposition the same day. Hearing set for the following Tuesday. 5 days walking around with a restraining order on my record I didn't earn. Those were among the worst days. Not the restriction itself, what it represented. My name in a protective order database, my project manager getting a courthouse call, the look on his face when I had to explain. At the hearing, my attorney took it apart in 20 minutes, played the Ring doorbell footage, Nadine walking up to the front door alone at 1:47 p.m. My cousin Kellen letting her in. The whole thing time-stamped. Then presented my photos of her Lexus hidden around the corner, proving the visit was premeditated. Then, the footage of her and Kellen pounding on my door after the locks changed, his threats on camera. Presented the original police report documenting Kellen's assault on me, my defensive injuries, and his initiation of violence. Submitted my clean record, 0 prior incidents, 0 threatening communication. Nadine's lawyer tried spinning the confrontation as proof of volatility. My attorney pointed out that a homeowner defending himself against assault in his own bedroom after discovering an affair isn't volatility. It's a Tuesday in this state's Castle Doctrine. Judge dissolved the order, issued a written finding that the petition was not supported by credible evidence and appears to mischaracterize a documented self-defense incident, and warned Nadine about misusing court proceedings. That finding went straight into our case file, ammunition for later. But those 5 days cost me sleep, credibility at work, and a knot in my gut that took weeks to unwind. That's the part revenge stories skip. Even when you win, absorbing the hit still hurts. Then she went after my reputation from every angle she could think of, called everyone we knew, and told them I was violent, emotionally abusive, dangerous, targeted the wives first, knowing they'd pressure their husbands, lost 4 friendships outright. 2 guys sent texts starting with, "I don't want to take sides, but," which is always the opening act to taking a side. She called my company's HR department and told them I was unstable. Inquiry closed in 3 days because my record was clean and my project was ahead of schedule. Sent a bait email full of apologies, meant to get me to respond emotionally so her lawyer could screenshot it. Forwarded it to my attorney without a word. Posted on Instagram about her violent, narcissistic husband. My attorney's advice: the court is the only audience that matters. Hardest thing I've done, watching people believe lies about you and choosing not to fight back publicly. My buddy Reggie was the exception through all of it. Former Marine, zero nonsense, called me straight. Nadine's telling everyone you're a monster. I don't buy it, but you need to know what's circulating. She can win the narrative. I'm winning the case. Then came the job site ambush. 2 days after HR cleared me, Nadine showed up at the Crestview Hospital campus, past the construction gate without a hard hat, without a badge, without signing the visitor log. 3 safety violations before she said a word. Found my trailer and started a scene. Tears, pleading, loud enough for the crew outside. "Garrett, please, we can fix this." Choreographed to make me look like the villain, and her like the victim. I told the sub in the trailer to give us a minute, stepped outside, and said one thing. "You need to leave this job site. You're trespassing on an active construction zone without PPE." More tears, more volume. Electrician stopped working to watch. Superintendent walking over. "I'm calling site security." 30 seconds. She left, but she left loud, sobbing across the gravel lot where the entire framing crew could see. Calculated. I filed an incident report that afternoon, and the GC added her photo to the trespass list. That stunt cost me rapport I'd built over months. The sprinkler sub who'd been in the trailer started acting different. Shorter answers, no eye contact. His foreman asked if there'd be more incidents. That's the collateral nobody talks about. Not just lost friendships, but guys who don't owe you anything slowly pulling back. I documented every post, saved every voicemail where she contradicted her own public story, admitting the affair, begging me back, threatening to ruin me. My attorney filed a counter motion laying out the adultery, the dissolved protective order, the job site trespass, the HR stunt, the full harassment pattern, attached voicemails, ring footage, the police report, the incident report, the social media timeline. Judge's response was clear. Formal warning to Nadine, sanctions for the frivolous protective order, and a gag order on public statements about the case. That wasn't a small win. That was the turning point. Months ground past. Not dramatic months, just gears grinding, consequences running on autopilot. My career moved. I'd been getting recruiter calls for 2 years from a national fire protection firm that handled federal contracts and hospital systems across 12 states. Always said no because stability mattered when you had a wife depending on your paycheck. Now there was nobody to factor in but me. I took the interview. They offered a senior principal position heading their West Coast healthcare division. 30% raise, stock options vesting over 4 years, relocation bonus, team of 8 engineers under me. The niche I'd spent 20 years building, except now I was running it. Started first week of January. New year, new architecture. Through Reggie, who knew everyone in the industry, I met Marin at a project coordination meeting. Construction PM. Timelines, budgets, subcontractors. Direct. Kept her own place. Zero interest in being anyone's project or anyone's dependent. Our first real conversation went 45 minutes, and she never asked about money. She asked about fire suppression chemistry and whether clean agent systems would replace sprinkler designs in data centers. First time in years somebody talked to me like a brain instead of a bank account. About 2 months in, Marin asked me point blank over tacos whether I'd actually moved on or was still running the campaign. You're driven and you're honest, she said, but I need to know if there's room for something forward or if you're still torching the rear view. Told her the divorce was close to final. I wasn't pushing anything anymore. Dominoes were just falling on their own. Good, she said, because I don't share headspace with ghosts. Meanwhile, Nadine's world had shrunk. Temporary support kept her fed, but not comfortable. She'd moved in with a friend in a small town, 2 hours east with barely any job market. Got a part-time gig at a property management office for $14 an hour. First real job she'd held since before our wedding. The house sold on the first Saturday in June, nearly 8 months after the confrontation. I signed closing papers at 10. Nadine signed at 2. Separate sessions. I drove to the street afterward and parked across the road. Watched a young couple carrying boxes inside, laughing, pointing at the deck I'd built. They had no idea what happened in those rooms. The dented bedroom wall had been patched and painted, the cracked door frame replaced. Every trace of that night, just gone. A sold banner covered the sign. Nadine showed up 20 minutes later. Thinner, hair shorter, off-the-rack jacket and jeans. She stood on the sidewalk staring at the house, then saw my truck and walked over. I got out, leaned against the hood. Might as well face it standing. Your lawyer filed to end support early, she said. Voice flat, but I could hear the tension under it. My attorney got the ruling Wednesday. Judge granted early termination. The sanctions from your protective order stunt and the conduct findings gave him everything he needed. I watched the color drain from her face in real time. She came thinking she could negotiate, walked right into a done deal. I can barely cover rent. This wasn't supposed to go like this. It went exactly how you made it go. You invited Kellen into our house against my objection, and then you invited him into our bed. Every consequence you're living right now. You built it. Both of you did. Her jaw tightened. For a second, I saw the old version flicker. The one who'd reframe, redirect, spin the story until she was the victim and I was the bad guy. I watched her cycle through the playbook. Tears, guilt, anger, victim. None of it was landing on whatever version of me she was looking at now. She just looked spent. I don't recognize you, she said. Good. She walked away without looking back or saying another word, got in a friend's car, and was gone. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. Kellen's number. Garrett. It's Kellen. Long pause. Just wanted to say you won. I'm at my mom's house working warehouse shifts. Criminal record, restraining order, can't get an apartment because of the judgments. You torched everything. Silence. It was just a hookup, man. People mess up. You didn't have to nuke everyone's life over it. You shoved me in my own bedroom and took a swing at my head. You were wearing my clothes, eating my food, charging my credit card, and sleeping with my wife. What exactly did you think was going to happen? Long pause. You're cold, Garrett. Goodbye. Blocked the number. Last word I'll ever waste on that chapter. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a darn. Picked up Marin at 7. New Peruvian spot on 4th Street. Good food, better company. She didn't ask about the house closing. Talked about a project she'd landed that week and asked if I wanted to go hiking Sunday. When I told her it was done, every thread cut, every document signed, she squeezed my hand across the table and said, "Good. Now we go forward." Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.